Hello, Terry. How are you? Welcome to the live. First person in, Nicole. How are you? Thank you very much for dropping in. Welcome to news content. Recognize news contents count, of course. Thanks for dropping in. Thanks for saying hi. Getting started a little early as usual. Hey. You were on my last live last time? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. See, I told you I recognized the name. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm just gonna, trying to get into the habit of doing the whole, like, Wednesday, Friday night kind of thing, and don't have necessarily a topic to go on, although I just watched the P-Diddy special, well, 3 parts of it. I think there's another one airing right now. Again, how much we can talk about that, I really don't know, because obviously everything P-Diddy is accused of are things that we can't talk about on TikTok without doing a whole bunch of crazy things. I hope my sound's coming out okay. I'm trying a new light system and microphone system and all that good stuff, and but hopefully you can hear me fine and I don't have to completely shout for you to hear me. If you can let me know whether or not you're hearing me fine, that's a good thing, but if not, I'll just assume you can hear me fine. Whew. So, what's up tonight? What's everybody doing? Like I said, I'm officially starting at 6, so this is kind of an unofficial welcome, say hello kind of thing, getting the room going before the official time starts. I'm going to try to commit to 1 hour minimums on these lives, but if we go long, that's fine. Probably better to go long when we have some kind of topic that's a particular interest. The P-Diddy thing I thought was going to be a little hotter than it was, but there were things to talk about for sure, so we could get into that at the top of the hour. Samsey, thanks for helping out with the channel. Thank you very much. Everybody that comes in and says hi, it's amazing to see you. Hopefully we can make a regular thing, get a little community built here and get to know each other a little bit. By the way, I don't know that anybody gives a rip about my personal backgrounds with that, but I'm always open to talk about myself and my partner, who's not here tonight. He's not on very often, but him and I are business partners on the branding of Devil's Advocates. But again, we kind of work independently right now. He's got a full-time job. I got a full-time job. I'm in the primary content right now, so anyways, yeah, and if anybody wants to take the mic and come up, we can possibly do that. I prefer to have people who have been regulars and know what I'm about and what I talk about and how I like to conduct the live. But I'm not against having somebody new jump the mic if somebody wants to come in and hang out and talk a little bit. Sometimes that banter back and forth of having somebody to talk to makes it a little easier. So I see a lot of people who are joining who have the ability to go live. So again, if you have been on the show, on the live, sorry I'm yawning so much, it's been a long day. But anyways, if you've been on my lives before and you know what we talk about, then feel free to throw a hand up or something and let me know you're interested, and I can get you invited to the live and we can chat a little bit, see how it goes. We try to avoid certain words that get us in trouble. I'm learning what I can and can't get away with at TikTok. I probably should have marked this particular live as being 18 and older, so that I don't get anybody restricting that. I'll just have to be extra careful, I guess, because I didn't actually put that flag on. Thanks for the gifts, the hearts. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Sorry for the yawns. I don't know what it is. I get on camera and I start yawning. I wasn't yawning 10 minutes ago. Now I'm on camera and I'm yawning. Maybe it's nervous yawning. I don't know. Welcome, William. Thanks for joining. So anyways, yeah, anybody got a question or a comment? I've been following, of course, the Luigi Mangione story. I've been covering the P-Diddy story. I'm probably going to jump back into the Kohberger story now that the trial is about to start on Bryan Kohberger. So I'm interested in the true crime that has social impact in some way or another and leads to bigger questions. And that's hard to define, but I'll explain that as we go. Oh my God, that yawning is killing me. What the hell is my deal? Anyways, yeah, throw me a question or throw me a guest invite or something like that. And like I said, we're a little early because it's still about 3 minutes until the official start at 6 o'clock. I'm wiggling my camera from time to time because I'm trying to get comfortable in my big padded chair underneath my meditative sloth on the wall, which you can see part of. I think the date of the trial... I don't remember. I need to get kind of caught back up on it. I know that this was one of the last meetings of the defense to try another motion to get the whole thing dismissed. I wanted to say it was August. It might be August, but that seems a long ways out. So maybe it was April. Maybe it was an A word. And I'm sorry that I don't have that. Is it September? I thought it was August. So you're thinking September. That doesn't sound too far off. So maybe I was right about the August/September timeframe for the start of that trial. I was following it kind of heavily when Bryan Kohberger's story first broke. I'm from that area. I went to school at WSU, which is right next door to Moscow, Idaho. So that whole area was my stomping grounds. It caught my attention. And then about 2 months after the murders, there was a huge gag order that was put on the trial, and I kind of lost interest because there was nothing new to talk about, because as is typical nowadays, the court systems lock everything down, don't allow anybody to talk about anything. So we just have to wait for the trial to be able to get anything new. And even then, the standard par is to bar cameras from the courtroom, so there's no transparency in the legal system, and you have to trust that the media who is invited to the courtroom will come and tell you the summation of the day's events in an unbiased manner. Good luck with the media providing unbiased opinion. I guess in that respect, even I don't provide unbiased opinion. I do give my opinions about things. I just try to couch it by saying when I'm clearly just giving you an opinion and not a fact. So, and you know, I don't know if that's any different than mainstream media maybe, but I try to make it clear. Oh, fudge, man. Fudge. I don't know what it is about the yawns. Holy sheesh. Anyways, I'm glad that somebody else was interested in the Kohberger thing. I mean, I'm like I said, I was big into it. I know Character Analysis, who comes on this show from time to time, she's been following the Kohberger thing, has a lot of opinions. I was going to go and look at her stuff and see what her opinions were. I had my own thoughts years ago when it first happened. Started a blog about it, and then I didn't keep up on it. You've been following from the beginning? We need to talk. We need to talk. I remember there was a lot of questions that I had early on about strange things that didn't make sense. One of which, just as an example, was a supposed Uber order or food deliveries, like through Uber, that was going to be delivered during that time of the murders, and I heard nothing about the delivery man coming with the food, whether he showed up, why it was so long after the Uber was supposed to be there before anybody reported anything. And so anyways, but it's been a long time. I'm getting ahead of myself even commenting it. This is 2 years ago memory. I had questions about that. I had questions about the roommates that were in the house at the time who didn't hear anything. So there's a lot of questions that I have. But again, what happened was the trial dried up in the sense that with the gag order on, then all we were left with speculation. And at the time, I couldn't find anybody interested in the trial to talk about it, so I quit talking about it. But it's interesting, Nicole, that you have been following from the beginning. If you are not in touch with me already, I'd love it if you sent me a private message. If you've got videos that you've been doing on it, I'd love to see those. I'd like to get back up to speed and offer some opinions once I kind of review all the course, the background information again. I mean, I remember that he was a Crim J major. He had a professor that was one of the top Crim J professors in the country. I found that interesting. I found that really interesting, actually, at the time. So yeah, there's lots of thoughts I have about the Kohberger case, but I'd like to make sure I'm speaking from an educated position instead of 2-year-old information where I haven't touched it for forever. Any other comments, questions, thoughts? Again, it's officially past the 6 o'clock, so we're officially started. I was going to talk about the latest P-Diddy special that came out on Investigation Discovery. It was, and boy, did Investigation Discovery screw up this documentary 6 Ways from Sunday. And by that I say, they originally said it was going to be a 3-part series, and then they changed it to a 4-part series, and then it became a 5-part series, and then they were it had indicated one place that they were going to air one episode on Tuesday night, or maybe it was Monday night. One episode on Monday night, 2 episodes on Tuesday night, and another one on Thursday and Friday. And they ended up airing like 2 episodes on Monday night, episode 4 instead of episode 3 on. It was all over the place. They were freaking a mess. They were a freaking mess with the way they delivered it. The most confusing part, or the most disappointing part of the P-Diddy special on Investigation Discovery was that I had high hopes, because it was Investigation Discovery, that they were going to do a much better job at reporting than some of the other places. And so far, in the 3 episodes that I've watched of the P-Diddy special, I think very little was new. Almost everything was exactly the same thing we've seen from other places. In fact, the same people are being interviewed in many cases. So it's the same stories, the same people. If anything, the consistency of the documentaries is what's interesting, right? All the documentaries seem to paint pretty much the same story. So the consistency is good in a sense. You're not getting like one telling you something completely like, where the hell did they come with that? Like, that's a completely different take on it. So the stories seem to be the same. The behaviors that are being that Diddy is being accused of are consistent among many victims. One of the things in the Investigations Discovery documentary called "The Fall of Diddy" that really struck me as it profound was just how, in my opinion, a couple in particular of the victims, how convincing they came across as being authentic. Some of the other investigation or documentaries weren't as authentic, but there was a couple of people in particular who told their story that I'm like, oh my God, that I 100% believe that happened to that person, and that there's no ulterior motive. There was a horrendous detailed account of something that happened to a female. That again, I can't talk about on TikTok. I'll get all kinds of violations for talking about it. But if you watched the special, it was the one, I think Talia was her name, and her depiction of the grocery bags, the pool table, the vomiting, the whole experience was so detailed and so disgusting and so horrendous that I was just like. I was stunned. It was like I'd heard those allegations, but when she told it, there was this ring of authenticity for me that I was just like, this is a freaking monster. Like this is a flat out monster. And that was one of the things I also took away from the multiple specials, is the people who say they know Diddy and knew Diddy well. And by the way, Luigi Mangione is a topic we talk about all the time. So if you want to talk about, and hey, Mr. Cobretti, good to see you. I hope you're doing okay. If you want to come on the live and talk about something, let me know. I'm just talking real quickly about Diddy, and if you have some things you want to talk about, let me know. We'll jump on the live together. But one of the things I was going to say about Diddy was the consistent thing that came out with Diddy was kind of a Jekyll and Hyde persona with him, that he could be sweet as pie and super fun to hang out with, and you know, this charismatic guy, and then he would do some drugs or something like that, and I shouldn't even say that word. Watch me get a community violation for saying the word. But anyways, he would do something, and then he would become a monster. He would change. And there was many people who said they knew Diddy well that said, I don't know what that was, but that was not the man I knew. What came out of that bathroom, when he came out of the bathroom and started to assault me, that was not the man I knew. He was a monster. He'd become something else. And that was a pretty consistent thing, that he had a shift, something that changes in his personality, where he'd go from sweet as pie, hey, I'm going to do everything for you and make your career, but you need to accept that certain things are going to happen to you because that's just the way things work in the business. And later you're going to thank me. So even though these horrible things are happening to you, that's just how business is done. And so, in the end, he wanted people to basically forgive his horrendous actions because that's just doing business. That's just how the industry works. You want to be in this industry, you're going to have some moments that aren't going to go your way. But in the end, you're going to be rich and famous. So, what do you want? It's a trade, right? So that was kind of a consistent thing that came out that was horrendous to me to watch, was the people who really depicted that character. And I think enough people have come forward at this point that it's pretty clear that this is a consistent feel for this person. And there's a character analysis. I was talking about her earlier. We were talking a little bit earlier about Kohberger and how I want to get back into that. I reached out to you today to try to find some of your videos on Kohberger. I was wanting to come up to speed on what you've talked about because I used to cover that. So again, I've got a couple people who I've done a live with before, Kohberger and character analysis. If either one of you want to jump on the live, I don't know if I need to invite you up or whether you want to throw a request to come up. Or if you just want to hang out. Either way, I'm open. I have no super locked in topic. I have been going back and reviewing some of the Luigi Mangione stuff and asking new questions. And so maybe you've seen some of that as well. So I just got to notice that some of the comments in my live have been filtered to protect the community's experience. It doesn't say I got the restriction. That was interesting. But it says that some of the comments that I've received have been restricted. Looks like we've got character analysis who's going to come up. So let's get her on. Oh, and then she went away. So I accepted the invite. It popped up your side-by-side screen, and then it went away. Was that a mistake on my part, your part? Let's do that again. Okay, so I'm getting a request again. Let's go.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. Excellent.
So you're interested in the Idaho case?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know if you were here. Have you been here from the beginning or just come in?
No, I just peeked in because I saw that you were live.
Yeah, so I went to school at WSU and I went to Moscow and I'm familiar with the area. So when it first happened, I was kind of very intrigued because it was my stomping grounds, And
yeah, of course.
I started to follow it, and then basically, and so I started to blog about it a little bit, but I wasn't catching any interest with anybody that was as interested as me. So I thought, well, maybe it's just because I'm a local guy and nobody else gives a rip. But then when the gag order went into effect, everything dried up, and everybody was basically, why are we even talking about this? Nothing new is going to be out. And so I just kind of dropped it. And then I saw you were covering it again. I saw that the trial's coming up. The defense has made their last motion to try to get the whole case thrown out, and I'm like, okay, I'm back in. Like, I want to get back into Kohberger, so I thought I'd talk to you.
Yeah, everybody's back in because I've seen so much more activity on my Idaho posts, and I've gotten a good amount of new followers because of Idaho.
Oh wow!
And of course, it has to do with the last couple trials and. Honestly, it just has to do with, I think, two things. One, the controversy over the IGG, and Dylan, the surviving roommate.
Yeah.
And I feel for her because, Ann Taylor she was just throwing everything up against the wall to see what would stick.
Yeah. Right.
Like she was just taking kind of what we already knew. And retelling it, but telling it in a way that makes Dylan look not credible. Like when she said, well, DM said that she was certain she heard one of the victims go up and run down the stairs, but that's impossible because that victim was dead in her bed.
Right.
When what it could have simply been was Dylan saying, yeah, I heard the running up and down the stairs. I thought it was Kaylee. Right? Like, this is what I mean. She's going to take us. If we can't see the document, right? She can say whatever she wants.
Right.
As long as it's not a lie.
Right. Yeah, and that's been the difficulty. There was all kinds of early questions for me, and it's been 2 years for me since I looked into it. There was early questions. I remember there was some weird stuff that came out from a cybersecurity guy that had some interesting take on some video camera footage and stuff like that. I remember a discussion about Uber supposedly delivering food at the time of the murders, and there was no discussion about what happened with the food delivery and why nothing was reported for hours until the next morning. There was questions about who was in the house and why the neighbors didn't hear anything. And so I had all these questions, but again, then the story just dried up for me. And 2 years later, I see you're talking about it, and I see the trial's about to start. Well, I think it's August or September. But anyways, I was like, okay, I'm going to get back into it to get up to speed because it's been so long since I researched it. I kind of want to look into it.
Yeah, you just so you know, you sound a little bit underwater.
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you sound a little underwater. I've been covering the case since. I mean, we're pretty much for 2 years, and then Luigi happened, and I shifted my focus mainly because there was just no new information, and there really still isn't any new information.
Yeah.
The people are always going to be. Well, it's kind of like with Luigi, right? Like it's very similar. Where people say no, he's being framed, he's being set up, and it's the same argument, right? Yeah. So I think we see this in a lot of cases, right? We see this in a lot of cases where people are like, no, they're being set up. I mean, didn't we see that with Wade Wilson as well?
Well, I think part of the problem is I mean, I could be wrong. I may not be right at all, but I think people have seen too often that even when someone's guilty, law enforcement will do things to make sure they get their guy. And people are getting tired of planted evidence. They're getting tired of cops making up stuff that wasn't true, interjecting stuff, doing illegal search and seizures to make sure they get the right guy. So I feel like part of the reason why people are having the same kind of problems over and over again is because law enforcement in America and the judicial system has failed people, and people don't trust them anymore to do a fair job of investigation and an unbiased court system, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, listen, some of the things I'm not, Ann Tiller said in the hearing, they don't have one continuous video of the car, right? They're piecing it together.
Right. Okay.
And through using different videos. Now that to me, like I could see someone being able to poke a hole through that. That's concerning to me.
Right.
It's not overwhelmingly concerning, but it's still a little, that's hard to, how are you going to prove it? That's the same car.
Right. And I remember back in the early investigation, there were questions about the headlight shapes and whether or not the car and all the videos were the same exact car or just another white car or whatever. So,
yeah, I mean, what we have to remember is he was missing a front license plate.
Yeah.
So, is there any video that details that shows like, no, listen, we have this car and in 3 different instances, it's missing a front license plate. Right, I mean, I don't know. That would help. That would really help. I'm not that concerned about the DNA or how they got it because we've seen that in some other cases.
Well, refresh my memory. If I remember right, he and his dad went on a big road trip afterwards, right, to back east where his parents were at, and that they seized some.
Yes.
They noticed that he had cleaned up his car and gone through it and detailed it. And that was at least allegedly what came out in the news. Refresh my memory about that.
So he goes back to Pennsylvania with his father, and the FBI set it up with the sanitation, who was taking the garbage, and got sanitation to bring them the garbage, and they had been watching him, and they saw him put garbage in the neighbor's garbage pan, garbage bin.
I remember that now about putting it in the neighbor's garbage made it look even more suspicious, right?
Which just looked worse, right? It just looked worse,
gloves, right? They were like latex gloves or something like that.
Yeah, and we heard that, this, I guess apparently there was a sniper, and the sniper like trained on him right before and he was walking through the house with gloves on,
But
like
but
separating the trash.
but refresh my memory on this. So I've heard you say something. I think, and so correct me if I get it wrong, but that the only DNA evidence that they had was on the sheath at the crime scene, right? So what did they find in the trash in the Pennsylvania house?
They got the father's DNA and they compared it to the DNA on the sheath.
And that's how they're making
And they
it.
compared it to the profile that they were able to build through IgG,
Okay.
and they made a familial match.
Okay.
Whoever, that person's DNA he was a paternal match to that person's DNA.
Okay.
And he only had one son, so
Yeah.
you
Interesting.
know, yeah, very. I mean, yeah, I just that case has been that case. I'm just inviting people. That case has, I think, just been haunting people because of it's very, and I think part of the reason why people are so hesitant to believe it's Kohberger is because it's really terrifying to think that somebody at any time that you don't know could be watching you and could come into your house and brutally unalive you for no apparent reason.
Right.
That's terrifying. And so we
Right.
need to make sense of it, right? We need,
Yeah.
no, it's got to be somebody else. It's got to be somebody that they knew, because that would only happen by someone that they knew.
Right.
That unknown factor it's very scary to people.
Well, then that leads to my question for you: what your thoughts were on the motivation? From what I understand, and again, correct me if I'm wrong. What I understand is he didn't have a connection to these individuals. There's speculation that maybe he got rebuffed by one of the girls at a bar that night or like that. But what is the motivation you think for why he goes and wipes out four people that he doesn't know, or did he? Do you think?
Well, I don't think he chose of I don't think of one of the people in the house were the targets. I think the house was the target because it was the only house in the area with no cameras. And it was the only house in the area with a sliding door. So the house itself was very vulnerable. And this entire thing, when you really look at the logistics, he went in at 4 a.m. It was a Saturday night. It was the last weekend before Thanksgiving break, and there was a home game that Friday night. I mean, when you really think about it, who would know or who would think to consider a weekend where, a weekend before, like a holiday? Who would think to, like, your average person wouldn't think that way. They would have to know it was students.
But what do you think his motivation is? Like an ego thing, revenge thing. I just want to see if I can get away with this thing. Like what's his motivation?
I think he was trying to beat Bundy. Have you heard of the Chi Omega
No,
unalivings?
no, huh?
Okay.
Oh, you mean with Bundy?
Yeah.
Yes. Where he supposedly went in and like did things to people when they were sleeping, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I do remember that a bit.
Went into it was a broken door.
Yeah.
That's how he got in. House full of people. He left two survivors. He unalived two people. He was in and out in 15 minutes. And they both, I believe, went to Washington. No, I think they both went to Washington State as well.
Hmm.
And they both, like Bundy, he volunteered for a women's crisis line.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Kohberger wanted to be
Security guard or something like that.
he wanted to be, what's the word I'm looking for? An intern with WSU police.
Right.
Like they both have that history of working in an area where they will kind of learn something about their targets. right?
And
Or
he was
learn something about what the,
right. I mean, he was in Crim J classes.
yeah, he was in his he was starting his PhD program.
Right.
So what I think, honestly, this is just a guy who wanted to unalive women. Simple as that. And if you think about it, if he had gone into a church, right, and unalived 5 people, people would think, oh, this is like religious motivated, like religion motivated, because it's a
Yeah.
church.
Yeah.
If he went into a mosque, if he went into a place that is identified or associated with a race or a faith, people would say, "Oh, this was race motivated. This was faith motivated." Right? He
Right.
goes into a house full of women, and it doesn't occur to people to say, "Oh, this was gender motivated. This was about women." So I think he always wanted to do it. Go
I
ahead.
think he was kind of like a budding early serial killer, and this was his first.
Yeah, I do. I do. I think once you get a taste for that, I think once you get a taste for it, I don't know that you'd be able to just never act on it again.
It's interesting if Bundy's case was in Washington State. I didn't know that it was in Washington State. I thought it was, I mean, in the state of Washington, but Washington State University or University of Washington. I'm not really sure. I don't remember where that happened.
No, Chi Omega happened in Florida.
Oh, okay.
Chi Omega happened in Florida, and but Bundy, I believe, went to
West Coast, I think.
he what?
Well, he was working on the West Coast, Bundy, wasn't he? Up in the Seattle area or not?
That I don't know for sure. That I don't know for sure. I know that they had a similar background.
Yeah.
But I think this is very SK serial unaliver motivated. I do think he would have done it again. What I'm trying to figure out is, and it's totally possible because we've seen this with like BTK. Was this his first time?
Right.
Because this is pretty for someone who's allegedly never done anything before. I mean, to be in and out of the house in what, 12 minutes, 10 minutes,
Yeah.
unalive 4 people, barely leave a trace. Although I think he did leave a trace. That those three unknown samples of blood, I think were him. I think it just wasn't enough for a profile, or it was degraded in some way. Now, this is what Antiel is really, really good at is words, how she words things, and she'll say things like, "There's no DNA evidence. There's no connection to the victims in the car." However, she did say pretty clearly in this last trial there was no blood in the car, but
Yeah.
that doesn't. So I don't know if that's true. I would think it's true if she's saying it, but no DNA evidence doesn't mean no DNA. It
Yeah.
just means there was no DNA in the car that could be traced back to the victims,
Yeah.
like that could be connected to the victims. So
Yeah.
she's very good with her words.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, it's a trial that caught my attention. I had my own kind of like early guesses about motivations with that, and so I'm curious. But again, I don't know. With our new trend of everything, cameras are always barred from the courtroom. So even when you do hear something, you're getting whatever reporter analysis or how they do it that way may or not be accurate to what happened in the courtroom. So we don't have a very transparent court system anymore. It seems like, so we don't get to see what that actually is said. So I don't
Right.
know.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
WSIT, do you think he left the blood? What does WSIT mean?
Washington State No. Oh wait, they were typing. Wait. You think he left the blood? He
Wait,
left the blood?
uh, yes, I do. I mean, I think it's very possible it was just old blood. I mean, it's a house where there's tons of parties. Like, you know, I'm sure more than one person has drunkenly fallen down those stairs, or it was on the rail going up to the third floor. I mean, anything could have happened to leave blood. But there was a glove with blood on it. Yeah, that's him. Like, that's fucking him. That's his glove. It just might not have been enough for there to be a profile, or it might have been degraded or whatever, especially if it was outside. So yeah, I do think the other two blood samples could have been him. The unknown male, yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's too early for me to give opinions on those because, like I said, my research was from almost 2 years ago now, and so I'm hesitant to even give opinions without getting back my mind back into all the details of what was shown. But I mean, I
Uh,
know the bits and pieces of it for sure. But
Tell the shower curtain theory. Yeah, yeah. The shower curtain theory. Well, when they came into his apartment, he had no shower curtain, right? And I always wondered, did he take the shower curtain and use it, like lay it down on that patio before he went into the house so that he could come out of the house, strip down, take everything off, just like wrap it up in that shower curtain and dump it in the trunk. And everyone will say, "Well, why wouldn't he just replace the shower curtain?" Which is totally possible, but I'll just say this, like, I don't know. Some people are just lazy. And they might take them a while to do it. They're like, "No, I'll get to that. I have more important things to do." So that's the shower curtain theory.
yeah, and but again, what's the time frame? 14 minutes or something like that. That's like now you've got
I
to.
mean, 9 minutes, 10 minutes. I mean, that's. What about the bathroom theory? Are you talking about about Ann Taylor saying that Dylan thought she heard crying in the bathroom?
I'm waiting for them to come out.
Because
I was also curious about the dog. Wasn't there like there was a dog in the house, and how come did the dog not bark and wake anybody else up? You had a comment about the dog a while back. I don't remember what it was.
Well, the comment I had about the dog was, I mean, yes, the dog was barking pretty much the whole time, according to Ann Taylor. I mean, that dog barked for a good 20 minutes. And when she said, the victim's door was open and the room where the dog was open. Define open. What are we talking here? Are we talking unlocked? Are we talking ajar? Are we talking wide open? This is what I mean
Oh,
because, yeah.
sorry. I no, I just remembered something about the case that I came to my head. I want to ask you about, but finish your thought.
Um, Anybody who has a dog knows. Because I think Kaylee was in her bed. I think she was asleep. I think the dog heard something, started barking. Kaylee got up and went into Maddie's room, and I think he just blitz attacked her. Um, but I think she probably closed her door behind her so to make sure her dog doesn't get out. If that dog could hear what was going on in there, dogs' hearing and their smell is like superior to humans. There is no way that if that door was open in any way that he could have gotten out, there's no way he wouldn't have gotten into that room. So I question what she means by open. Yeah, because Robbie was just in. No, the crate. Ugh, no, I'm not even responding to her. Um, because the dog would have come out of the room. Yes, I agree. I agree. The dog would have come out.
So
I mean, there's
refresh my
just no
memory.
way.
There's something that I remembered now from 2 years ago that had something to do with an interesting video from like a party in which somebody had a big knife, just like the one that they're saying belongs in the sheath. Uh, and they were flashing it around on camera. I remember actually seeing a video of them with this big ass knife. What do you remember about that? Because I've just that
Is
just
that the Halloween party? Or are you talking about Dylan?
I don't remember. I just remember there was a video from like a party in which they were playing around with this big knife, and they were indicating that maybe this is the knife that belongs to the sheath that they're saying Kohberger brought in, but yet they're playing with this knife earlier in another video. So
I think there were a few of those. I think there's like a picture of a Halloween party where one of the guys is dressed up as some kind of hunter, and he's got a what looks like a K-bar sheath
yeah,
and a knife in there. We don't know if it was a real knife or not.
right.
And I know there
That's
was a
kind of what I
picture that
remembered.
apparently was what?
That's kind of what I remembered is about the K-bar knife and sheath.
Um, it's kind of what I remember about the K-bar and knife and the sheath.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
that there was a possible that knife already was in the house and had been played with. And in other words, the suggestion was Kohberger didn't leave it behind. It's a knife that was already in that place. They have pictures of them playing with this knife earlier in the
right,
video, so
right.
therefore it's not the murder weapon that he brought in and left the sheath behind. Is what I remember.
Uh, yeah, like I said to you, I think he left the sheath behind on purpose. Like I think he left it behind on purpose to redirect. I think he wants people to think it's a K bar, and it might not even be a K bar. And if you noticed in the search warrants, when they said, these are the things we're looking for, and one of the things they said they were looking for was a sheath. Well, if they already had the sheath, why are they looking for another sheath? Which makes me think that it wasn't a K bar at all. That's just the sheath that was left behind, and they're looking for a sheath without a stabby thing, or a stabby thing without a sheath.
And your theory on that is Kohberger did it and left it behind to misdirect.
Yeah, yeah. Like maybe somebody in ROTC, like somebody, or just to misdirect about the kind of knife that was
Ah,
used.
somebody just met DoorDash. That's what I was talking about when I heard there was supposedly a DoorDash order that was coming in the middle of the night during, I think, the window. So I was curious whatever happened with that. Was that just a rumor that turned out to be not true, or was there a DoorDash order made for food at 2 or 3 in the morning or something like that?
Why didn't they ask for DoorDash before 12/6? Did they not know about DoorDash until reported? I I don't I don't know. I mean, is that the date of the warrant? I don't know. Maybe that's when they got the warrant. I don't know.
Yeah, I just remember again from 2 years ago. I just remember there was supposedly somebody in the house had ordered food. I think it was from DoorDash. Now that this person's mentioned DoorDash, and that there was never any follow up to that on did the food arrive? Because if the food arrived and there was murders going on, what happened? Why didn't we hear from the DoorDash driver? Why didn't, if the food didn't get delivered because nobody answered? Like it just like, oh yeah, somebody ordered DoorDash and that was end of story. Like what happened? Like I want to know more about the
Yeah,
DoorDash.
we're right. We don't know. They were never really confirmed if the order was delivered or not, right? It just said that an order was placed
Yeah.
or received. No, I think the PCA said received. I think the PCA said received. Now, that does not mean she got it personally. Did she get it, or was it left at the door?
Right.
We
That's what
don't know.
somebody that's what somebody just said in the comments that it was left at the door, could have been left at the door with a contactless delivery. If this was back during COVID time, contact delivery would have been a more probable thing, right?
Yes. Well, I mean, sometimes if like I know with me when I use order DoorDash, if I don't answer, like let's say I'm like in the shower or I don't hear the buzzer or they just get in because they come in behind somebody in the building, they'll just leave it at the door and then leave. And I'll get a text. Sometimes I'll get a text, not all the time.
Somebody's comment here is blocked, so I have to unblock it because I see no reason why they're blocked. So I just unblocked the doggone truth. The doggone truth. I will try to. I'm going to try to find that kind of stuff later. When I'm in the middle of a live, I don't have a notepad with me to write down stuff, but I'll see if I can dig some. Like I said, I'm just kind of starting to get back into it and getting my memory refreshed of what things I remember off the top of my head here on the fly right now. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Oh, no, what do you think? Have you seen that new video of Luigi walking from the bus station?
No, there's a new video
Yeah, someone posted it on Reddit. It's a video of, I shouldn't say Luigi, I should say the suspect. The suspect,
from the Greyhound station after he was supposed to be leaving the Port Authority.
no, the bus station after when the taxi driver dropped him off.
Okay. Yeah. Right.
Do you want to make me big for a second? Oh, I am big. Duh. Forget it. Forget I asked that. Hold on.
Devil's advocate. I broke Brian's termination letter a week ago before the media shared it. Oh wow. Send me a, maybe if you're willing, send me a private message so I can make sure to remember to circle back with you later. It sounds like you got a lot of stuff I'm interested in. If you're willing. Oh, hey, look at this. You're going to pull up video.
Oh, well, it's a screen share. I mean, it's a screenshot.
Gotcha.
So that's from the video. I don't think I have another. He's the guy's wearing a surgical mask,
So
and you
look,
can
correct
kind
me
of
if I'm wrong. So
see.
this was allegedly after he got in the taxi and he went to the bus station, and then they thought, if I remember right, they thought that he had gotten on a bus and had left town at that point. This is him leaving the
Hmm.
station or going into the station.
He's leaving the station. And he's walking towards a sub. He's walking. He's leaving the station. I don't know where he's going. It said in the Times that he was going to the A train so that he could take the A train back downtown to Penn Station. But what you can very, to me, that looks like a hump on his back, which I think is a backpack.
Yeah. Which would
Yeah.
lead to a lot more questions for me, considering they said that he didn't have a backpack when he was on 85th coming out of the park.
Uh,
So he had a backpack
yeah,
going into the park, he had a backpack coming out on 77th, and somewhere between 77th and 85th or 88th, he had no backpack again. So if he has a
no, he
backpack,
did.
then he's got the most
He
mysterious
did have the
backpack.
backpack. Hold, please. Hold, please, sir.
Now, I'll have to, while you're getting that, I'm going to have to dig through my notes. I remember clearly an official source, like mainstream media, reported that he had ditched the backpack at some point between like 77th and 84th. But I have to get my or 88th, whatever it was he came out on. But
That's after he came out of the park.
on 77th, because I don't think
Uh,
there wasn't any disagreement. He had the backpack on 77th. Then they lost him again for a short period of time and picked him up again, and he didn't have the backpack, is what I remember them saying.
no,
And
he
then,
did.
then it leads
They
to
no,
questions
no, he
about the
didn't have the
backpack.
bike. He didn't have the bike.
Right.
It was he had the bike and then he didn't have the bike. Ow! Oh,
So
sorry.
I won't beat this to death. I won't beat this to death. But I remember them saying the bike and the backpack were missing at that point. So it was both. But you're saying it was just the bike. But I remember from my notes. Now I have to go back and look. So I'm not saying you're wrong. I need to double check myself. But I remember the bike and the backpack is how I remember it.
Right. No one caught the backpack. No one caught it.
So you're saying it was
We've
just
only
underneath his jacket and
it was underneath his jacket and people just didn't catch it.
what's
It was underneath
what's your explanation or reason of why he put it underneath the jacket?
because people would be looking for a guy with a backpack.
And what about the backpack that was left in the park?
Um, that's the one that the shooter wore.
So are you saying that they're two different people?
Nope,
Okay.
not
So
at all.
if the shooter goes into the backpack and the backpack of the shooter is found in the park, and then the shooter leaves the park with the backpack, what explain the two backpacks from your perspective?
Because he probably had an empty backpack already on under the jacket.
Okay.
He gets to the park, takes off the backpack that we saw, and changes jackets. Takes one jacket out of the backpack that we saw, put it on, left the other backpack behind with the old jacket, and then just had the other, because the other backpack the backpack that he didn't leave, the backpack that was probably on under the jacket, I think just had his laptop and his notebook and his like the passport and just little stuff. So I think, he gets to the park, he drops off the backpack that we saw him with, he changes the jacket, he packs the gun away in the new backpack that, the other backpack that he had on underneath his jacket, and then he leaves. He leaves the park.
Are you familiar and have opinions about the TJ Maxx bag that was found?
Yes, but I think that got the quality of the condition of the bag. I think the reason why it was sort of people stopped talking about it was because the bag looked like it had been freshly placed there,
right?
Not something that had been sitting there for 2 days. Because that bag would have, even if there was no rain, the bag looked like brand new almost.
And it seemed to have clothes in it, but it looked like to me.
Yes, it did look. It did have clothes in it.
And they haven't officially stated that. Oh, it was not related to the shooting. It's somebody else that just discarded their clothes in a bag in the park, or.
They have not officially said that. So I could be just spitballing.
Sure, yeah, that's fair. All of us are spitballing at this point.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think it's. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna say I don't think it's gonna go to trial.
The Luigi or the Luigi case? You
Luigi.
Don't think it's going to trial? Why do you say that? What's your theory on that?
I think the evidence is too damning. I don't know how he's going to get around that notebook. I don't.
Well, I mean, there still has to be a trial to convict in either way, right?
There still needs to be a trial to convict.
Right. I mean, unless you're saying he's just going to plead guilty and give up, and so there's no need for a trial. There's still going to be a trial.
I wonder if he's going to just plead. When he's going to change his plea.
We should know that pretty soon. We should know that by what, the 17th or 27th or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know how the hell he's going to get around that notebook. I just don't. It's just so, and the pew pew and the going off the grid. The only thing, and I know we've briefly talked about this, I just think the only thing that could save him is an insanity plea, some kind of not guilty by mental defect, something.
So it's interesting because I suspect that's his only out, and I suspect it's already too late for that myself. But what I am curious about, and I can tell you why I suspect it's already too late for the sanity thing. But what I am curious about is, let's say we get to D-Day, the indictment by the federal government, and he still is maintaining innocent and hasn't pled and hasn't agreed. Will your opinion change as to anything? Like, because you're saying I think he's done, he's cooked, he's going to have to plead, they've got him dead to rights. What if he continues to maintain on our next date that he's not only not guilty, but he's not claiming the insanity defense either?
I would just attribute that to, I don't know. I don't know.
Him being crazy?
I don't want to say crazy. I don't like that. Maybe his lawyer feels very confident. Hey, I can do this.
Right.
I can argue this. It all depends. Like, what's the argument?
Right.
I'm sorry for eating. I ate late. It really does. It depends. What's the argument going to be? Because that's what it comes down to. Fuck the evidence, right? I mean, the evidence matters, but what it comes down to is the argument. What is the?
Again, I don't think you subscribe to this theory, but again, here's what I'm saying. If there were multiple conspirators, which I see reason to believe that there are multiple conspirators, then the defense is you can't place me there because I wasn't there. So his ace in the hole is your case is going to fall apart when I can prove your theory can't work because I was somewhere else and I can prove it. And if he can prove that he was somewhere else because they were conspirators, it still leads to the question, why would he take the fall for something? But the point being is, if the ace in his sleeve is, I know I didn't do it and I can prove I didn't do it, then that's why there would be a trial. It's like, They're
But
resting their thing on he's the guy and we can prove it.
but if he had that kind of evidence, that's if he had exculpatory evidence, that would be he wouldn't be in jail.
Not necessarily true in my opinion, because again, if his lawyer, like for example, if his lawyer knows the exact evidence that he has, then of course she has to reveal that kind of thing. But there's also attorney-client privilege. He can tell her something where she knows and she has confidence that they're going to discover something. So there's a gray area on what she's allowed or required to do. Yes, if she has the smoking gun that proves it, she has to reveal that. So you could argue that she must not have it. But there's also the possibility that he's tipped her off that, look, I'm going to skate on this, and I want you to represent me because I've got a smoking gun, and I'm not going to tell you what it is right now. And she would just have to be able to hold that because she's got nothing yet other than his word that he's got something that's going to exonerate her.
Yeah, that's an awful long con. You know, not a long con, but you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that anybody would be like, listen, just go with me. Trust me, bro. Trust me, bro. We've got this. I mean, he might, but here's the thing that concerns me. This is a guy, no history of activism, right? No history of activism. But you're going to argue, like, he became what? Like, outraged at the healthcare system. This kid does not have one instance of activism in him. Nothing.
So, and again, don't take this as me fighting you. I'm playing devil's advocates. That's my channel. Right?
I'm totally fine. No, please do it.
Hold on a second. I got to do the verifying. It's really me by doing a puzzle piece test here. Anyways, so I have no history of activism, and yet I can see myself doing something completely out of character. I know for a fact I'm capable of doing something completely out of character, and yet you could say this guy's got no criminal history. True, I've got zero criminal history. I've got a squeaky clean background, and I'm old, so they could be like, this guy's never done anything like this, and I can see myself doing something you'd be surprised about. But that's just.
But here's the thing: if they looked at your videos, they would say, "Oh, this is somebody who had who was very mistrust of the police, right, or very conspiracy leaning, or so they'd have something." To be able to point to say, okay, here's the foundation. This kid's got nothing.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like I want to be clear. I want to see this kid walk. All right, like I want to see something happen where he walks or gets a reduced sentence or is not guilty. Right? I think they're listening to a lot of people online where they're like, there's no evidence. There's overwhelming evidence. Anybody trying to say there's no evidence, they're gaslighting you.
And see, this is the difficult thing. Like what you just said kind of touches a nerve because I've got a partner, right? And I have to be very careful because I don't want TikTok to hammer my account. But I've got a partner who feels like the sentiment in a lot of people is, I don't give a crap if he did it or not. I want him to walk because it was the right thing to do. And here's the thing. Like, I feel like adults should have the ability to say that that's how they feel. Now, whether or not you think that's not how the legal system works and we don't believe in vigilante justice and violence never solves anything and all the rhetorical things that you can say, the fact is there are people who feel that way. That even if he did it, I want him to walk because it was the right thing to do. And it sent a message. What? Now, again, I'm not saying where we lie on that situation because I don't want to get in trouble with TikTok, but you know.
Yeah, I agree with the message. Listen, yeah. I'm 100% in support of what he did. Like, listen, we've tried peaceful. We've tried all that. What did you think was going to happen? Of course, this was going to happen. It's happened throughout history. Have you not been paying attention? Not you, but like...
Right.
You know?
Yeah. This is why that people kept saying how to blow up a pipeline, because this book, which I just want to talk about briefly, this book was written just a few years ago. Now, we don't know that Luigi read it, because maybe his Goodreads doesn't show that he read How to Blow Up a Pipeline. But the book, which was protected under American free speech, was exactly what you just said. Legislation has never solved the issues. hiring different congressmen or replacing people in Congress doesn't fix the problem. The only thing they seem to understand, the corporate elite who are terrorizing people and causing enormous harm to human beings because of greed, is violence, either against the system or against them. It's the only thing that's worked. And historically, let's look at that. That's what the book did, and that was protected under free speech. The movie that came out was a fictionalized version about how a bunch of 20-year-olds who were freaking tired of the system and the abuse decided, we're going to do something about it. Now, in the movie, they didn't want to hurt anybody, so they went after a pipeline and blew up a pipeline in hopes that other people would see their example and follow suit. And if enough people did it, it would bring the system down, that the corporate greed would lose, because they would lose so much money. And in that movie, the whole premise of the movie was one person agreed, of the like 7 or 8 people who all came together and conspired to work the whole plan. One person agreed to stay behind and get caught by the feds, so that they would have their shiny little example of, we caught the bad guy, but the rest of them would all walk and they'd have the chance to do it again.
Mm-hmm. What movie is that?
That's called How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
Oh, a very creative title. Kind
Yeah.
of tells you all, it sums up the movie.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting movie, because a lot of people were asking me the same question when I was saying, hey, I think there's a reason to believe that Luigi could have been involved in multiple conspirators and that he took the fall on purpose. And they're like, well, why would anybody take the fall on purpose? And that's exactly the premise of that movie, that these people were fed up with the system and that this was the only way to try to make some kind of change. And one person decided, I will take the fall. The rest of you get to walk, and maybe you can do it again, but I'll take the fall because I'm a man of principle. And in the movie's case, it was a woman who actually took the fall. But the point being is that—
Of course it was.
It was the same as that.
Of course it was. Yeah. Where was I going with this? Yeah, and okay, I guess I don't see the history of him caring.
Yeah.
I don't see it. We see it in his book lists and things he wants to read, but we just don't see somebody who was really bothered by this. Until I don't even think he was radicalized. I'm sorry. I know people don't like this, but I just think he had a break from reality.
So again, and playing devil's advocate again, if I were 2 years ago, if I were to see the movie or read the book that we just were talking about, I could see how, if I even fomented in my mind for a moment, you know what? Maybe they're right. Maybe somebody needs to do something. At that point, I'm going to shut my mouth and I'm going to start working in private. And I'm not going to go on Goodreads and review the book. And I'm not going to rage about the book and say, yeah, they're effing right about this book. You guys should do something. Because if I'm planning on doing something, I'm going dark on the subject. Like, you'll never hear from me, because the last thing I'm going to do is draw attention to myself that I'm thinking about these ideas. But that doesn't mean that I didn't see the book or I didn't, see the movie and went, they're on to something.
Yeah, yes, but okay, I see your point, but I think planning to explode a schmipeline, which is an inanimate object, and unaliving a human being, we're crossing some lines. Do you know what I mean? Listen, when that's more of an act of defiance, right? I'm gonna take out this pipeline. That's an act of defiance. But when you cross over to unaliving somebody, I just feel like that's just different. That's just now we're in a completely different territory.
It's okay, but we think a little differently. To me, I don't think it's that different. It's just a level of degree. Like, how committed are you? And so somebody could be like, yeah, we could blow up a pipeline, but it's not enough. Like, they need to be scared. People need to be scared. CEOs need to be scared. I could see the logic going through somebody's head. To me, it's just a matter of degree. If somebody decided blowing up the pipeline wasn't enough, like, it needs to be bigger. And again, let me make it clear, we have not gotten a community guidelines violation, but I want to make it clear 2 things. This is not a call to action. I'm not asking anybody to commit any kind of acts of violence. I'm not promoting anything like that. This is theory crafting, and it's an adult conversation. It's all this is. So
right.
Please take that for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just inviting more people. I see where you're coming from. I just don't think that this involved multiple people. I'm now squarely at. I mean, we just saw that video. We see whoever left the bus station is wearing the same shoes as the shooter.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's clearly got a backpack on under his jacket. Why has he got a backpack on under his jacket?
Well, I'll give you this. I'll give you this. I am with you. So like you are willing to accept the possibility there are multiple people, but you don't really see it. I'm the opposite. I think there's likelihood that I'm leaning towards multiple people, but I'm with you in the sense that I can agree it could be one guy. The problem I have is just like you see holes in the idea of multiple people, I see holes in the idea of what has supposedly happened with one guy. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense the effort that you go through.
How doesn't it make sense?
Because
How doesn't it make sense?
I don't understand why you hide your face, for example, but then don't wear gloves while using the weapon. I don't understand why you go in the run for 5 days and then sit in a McDonald's and pull your mask down and get caught on camera to get picked up. I don't understand a lot of those things. I don't understand the red herrings, the bag of Monopoly money, the 286, all those things being left behind. That makes no sense for somebody who's planning to just give up and say, I did it. If he was a man of principle who decided this needed to be done, then stand there after you do it and wait for the cops and go, yeah, you did it. Like, it makes no sense to go on the run and then later on have a stroke of conscience or whatever and give yourself up. That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it's almost as if his thinking was disorganized.
I understand.
Right?
And this is where we disagree.
This is where we disagree. It's almost as if he planned everything up to the point of actually leaving.
Yeah.
Like this is what gets me. He changes his jacket. He doesn't even change the color of his jacket. Bro, get a red bubble jacket. What is wrong with you?
That's my point. Like, you see that as a sign of mental illness or something going wrong. I see that as a sign of multiple conspirators wanted to dress similarly because they knew that the police wouldn't be thinking that closely at the time. They'd be going after anybody on an e-bike with a similar jacket and a similar backpack. It doesn't have to match exactly. And so where you see signs of, well, that doesn't make sense, you must be off your rocker, I see signs of somebody's working in cahoots with other people and they knew that was going to be throwing people off. It's the scene that I posted from Thomas Crown Affair with a bunch of people coming in with the same bowler hat and walking around. They're like, oh my God, everybody's wearing a bowler hat. They don't know who to chase. Same thing. Everybody's wearing a freaking backpack and a black jacket. Which one is it? Like, I don't know. But
maybe. I just, it's kind of like the same argument with Kohberger where they're like, well, he must have had a co-conspirator. I'm like, no, there's no way. He didn't have the people skills. He didn't have the people skills to have an accomplice. Now, Luigi did, it seems like, but it just, multiple people, I don't see that they wouldn't have, here's the thing, if there were multiple people, right, and he's in jail, and they had a strong suspicion, because they said from the start, we believe he was working alone. Detective Kenny, head of detective, said, we believe he's working alone.
Well, yeah, if they believe, manifesto said that.
Well, yeah, his I don't think it was a manifesto, but his letter said, yeah, I'm working alone.
Right.
Because again, like this kid's, I think his ego is too big at that point, to work with, to share the credit. If they thought other people would be involved, I don't see why they wouldn't use him as bait to get the other people. Right? Yeah. Like if they thought, no, this is a ring and we're gonna stay on this kid. We're gonna stay on this kid and we want to get everybody.
So this is one of the things that I have mentioned. Like I pointed this out on one of I think it was the ABC special, it was the New York Post special, where a detective said there's a symbiotic relationship with the police department and the media, and they will purposely mislead the media to put out false information, especially, I didn't say it in that case, but especially when they want co-conspirators to think they got away with it. So it is very possible that the feds are on to multiple conspirators, but they're hoping by saying, oh, it's Luigi all the way. We know it's Luigi. He confessed to it. He was working alone. We know it. And they know darn well there's other conspirators, but they're hoping that they're letting their guard down because they're like, we just got away with this. And so there's a possibility that the feds do know there are multiple people involved, and that they're just playing the game of saying, oh yeah, it's a single guy, and hoping that the other guy will let the guard down long enough to get caught.
Yeah, I do think, I happen to think that was part of the reason why they never corrected the model or the year of the Elantra with Idaho, because police wanted him to think he got away, like they were looking at somebody else.
Yeah, and I think
that's my personal feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's difficult because it's a legal thing to do, right? They can give misleading information to the media.
Oh yeah.
It's not illegal to do so. Which then, of course, plays into the hand of people who are conspiracy theorists, who are a little bit more like me. We're like, well, shit, the details you're telling me don't match the case. Like, that can't be true. And they're like, yeah, we know it's not true. We lied to you. Well, great. Then I don't trust you. Like, if you're going to lie to me now, how much are you going to lie? How much are you going to plant evidence? How much are you going to do whatever to make your case? Because you just do whatever you can to get the case made.
Yeah, I mean, I said this in a video. Even though I think he did it, I also think there's sketchy stuff about the investigation.
Right.
Like, is it, where's the fingerprint? Because Kenny's saying it's on the phone and Tish is saying it's on the bottle, and which is it? Where is it?
Well, and it's just like, it's like a video I made today. So I was surprised when Luigi was arraigned in Pennsylvania, and they lay out all the things they have against him, including, we have a gun, we have a silencer, we have bullets, we have a passport, and we have cash and a Faraday bag. And he's like, oh, excuse me, the cash, I think, was planted. I don't know where that came from. And it wasn't a Faraday bag, it was a waterproof bag. Now I'm thinking to myself two things. One, out of all the things you could have corrected them on, why only those two? But it also leads to the question, if he did it, and we know he did it, why is he saying that some of the evidence is planted? And why? And if he's right, why would they plant it? Why, if he's the right guy, why do police have to plant more evidence to make their case better? Oh, if we put cash in there, then it looks like he's going to flee. We can use it to hold him. Like, if you're doing sketchy shit to make somebody get arrested, you're doing sketchy shit. That should be illegal on the police part as well. So then the question becomes, why did Luigi only argue about the cash and the Faraday bag and only but and if he's right, then why did they plant that evidence if they did? Like, there's a lot doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, does it? Correct.
And I know you're saying that sounds like mental illness. I get it.
That sounds like mental illness, like the outbursts.
I'm going to respect your opinion, but I don't go there.
His lawyer had to tell him, shut up. X-nay on the ash-K. What is wrong with you? But also,
I can't even believe his attorney would allow him to do that, but it happened pretty quick. So maybe
I think it probably happened very quickly. And also, too, you got to remember, like, this is a rich kid, like, from a very, very rich family. Like, I'm sure he was treading a little bit lightly in the beginning to, like, not really knowing. And it all happened so fast. And he just didn't know what to expect from this kid.
Yeah.
He just didn't know. And he probably didn't have enough time to really assess him. I just think, I hope that they're going to call an expert, some kind of witness. I hope he's going to be assessed by a professional, because this is what makes me really sad.
So let's talk about that for a minute. Because so somebody had pointed out to me the question about when can the insanity plea be entered and when is it too late. So I did some digging into this. So apparently there is a time frame of some sort on when you can basically use the insanity plea. And in particular, if Luigi is not competent to help his defend himself, that needs to be known to the court immediately, or at least as quickly as possible. Now, technically, they don't have to say the insanity plea until the arraignment, in which they could say, okay, we're going to argue insanity, but it needs to be done very soon. And arguably, if he was incompetent to be able to help defend himself in his case, that was supposed to be notified to the judge immediately. Hey, my guy's got a problem. He's got some psychiatric issues. We need care for him immediately. He's not going to be able to properly help us in the defense. Make a case for him because he's got mental issues. That was never said. So they've already passed the window where they could have said he had mental issues, and they haven't. So I will be surprised if they pull the insanity plea at any time, because they should have already notified the court that he was incompetent of being able to help the defense make his case.
Okay.
But that's just,
I didn't know that.
armchair. That's armchair legal. Like, this is why I want to get a lawyer on sometime to kind of clarify that. But that's what I understand is if there's any question about his competency to defend himself and to work with his legal team, that has to be made known to the court right away. That he can't work with us to make a proper defense for him because he's got mental issues.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, did they have enough time to assess that
But
at the time that he entered a plea?
As far as we know, nobody has requested a psych evaluation.
Oh, I don't think we'd know that at this point.
I think we would know that. If they had requested a psych evaluation, I think it would be all over mainstream media. But I don't believe it's happened. But that's just me. Again, we're both of us are theorizing about something we're going to know a lot more about when it comes time to
right. But we also have to remember,
the indictment. Sorry.
What her argument is going to be is he's not being able to get a fair trial. So she can't let anything leak, right? Like, if stuff leaks, right, there goes. I mean, she can't leak anything. Nothing. They're not going to release as much to the press because they want him to get a fair trial.
Yeah, I want to address Misunderstood's question in the group. She says, "Do you think that it hurt his case that Karen said that meant the mental illness plea on CNN before she was his attorney?" I don't know that it hurt his case, but it was super interesting to me.
Yeah.
But again, you have to keep in mind, at that point, Karen didn't have any information other than what the public has, and the public has been told it's a slam dunk. So that's all she knew at that point. So there's an argument that, yeah, she probably never had any clue at that time that she was going to end up representing him. And she was just being asked, "Hey, what's your opinion?" She's like, "Man, it looks like a slam dunk. They're probably going to have to go for insanity." But now that she's his attorney, of course, maybe she's regretting making that statement on TV. I don't know that it hurts anything, to be honest with you. But I think she was just offering an opinion based on facts that we all had, which was nothing at the time. She has a lot more facts now.
Well, his family's paying for the lawyer, right?
Do we know that?
Well, his assets are frozen.
Right. But the reason I'm asking is because the funding source of who's paying for his defense also matters. I don't know that it's been divulged who's paying for his defense. And the reason why I bring it up is because one of the scenarios I'm keeping in the back of my mind is that this was a professional hit by the insurance industry itself because of the trial that was coming up at the Department of Justice. If his defense is being funded by the insurance industry or whoever hired him to do this, if that was the case, that's an interesting scenario. Who's paying for his defense?
If somebody hired him to do it, he would have worn gloves, dude. Like, let's be realistic. Let's be realistic. Right. But you have to ask yourself, was she hired because she made that comment about the insanity plea? Maybe. Did his family see that and say, this is what I'm saying. I think his family knows something's up. I think they've always known, which is why I think they were so damn worried when he went off the grid.
I will say that from my perspective, for the couple people that are asking questions, this is my opinion only. There's no way in hell he's getting an insanity plea. There's too much thought into the process. There's too much execution, too much things. He's not going to be able to plead insanity. Now, if they try to pull it off, there's no way he's getting off on this. I can't see any prosecution not just ripping it to shred. So, but because there's just too much thought and process into it. But that's me. Well, that's an opinion.
Yeah, I don't know what the what criteria have to be met in order for it to qualify for insanity, but I don't know, man. I don't. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry. I agree. Like it's something we're just speculating on. It's interesting because you and I take very different ideas on the mental illness. So I would love to continue you and I to do some live together, especially as this trial progresses and we find out whether insanity is going to be the plea. So it would be interesting to continue that conversation. But I wanted to address real quick, Misunderstood asked a question about Bryan's wife. Almost always when someone is murdered, right, and I hate saying that word, I probably shouldn't have said that word, the first suspect is the spouse, right? So apparently...
Always.
They were potentially estranged. They lived in different homes. I don't know if they lived in different homes because they were so freaking wealthy that they just maintained multiple homes and everything was, hunky-dory between them. But the implication is that they had different homes because they were somehow separated or not getting along. If that's the case, why wouldn't be wife suspect number one as far as, now granted, we don't think it was the wife that did the event, but why wouldn't it looked into heavily that she could have hired somebody to do it?
And you don't think they looked into that?
I don't know that they haven't. We don't know.
I would think they would have to, because they're going to argue, like, did you look at anybody else?
Well, I guess that's where I'm going. I guess that's where I'm going. If they didn't, because you're saying that, well, they had to have, and I kind of agree with you. They had to have. If they didn't, if I'm heard the defense, I'm like, why the hell are you going after my guy from day one when everyone knows the first person you suspect is the spouse? How did you already rule out the spouse on day one? How come my guy was always been the focus and you never suspected the spouse when everyone knows the first person you suspect is the spouse? So,
which is why I'm saying I think they looked into her.
Right.
So that they can say, listen, we did our due diligence here. It's not her.
Right. Yeah. And I would hope that they did, right, look into it.
Yeah. I just... People need to be really careful when they say stuff like this. Like, we think this is all happening in a vacuum, right? But when we say things, and I'm not coming down on Misunderstood at all, I'm saying in general, especially because, thank God, that creator who was implicating the cousin, like, I'm glad he got banned. But you can't just do that. You can't just say, listen, I think his cousin was involved, or his wife was involved, and that's why, and this is why. You can't do that. Creators have been sued for that. Someone got sued on here on TikTok for saying a University of Idaho professor was involved with one of the victims, and that's why the ex-boyfriend did it. She sued and she won. You cannot just come out and say, I think the wife is shady. I mean, can you? Sure. But there's a line, coming out and saying, oh, it's a conspiracy and, Michael's involved in this and that. And you can't do that. You can't. You'll get sued. So
yeah, it's funny because there's a part of me that wants to clarify who you're talking about. I think I know who you're talking about, but I guess it's immaterial. But I didn't hear exactly what they said. Again, because there is a line. There's a line between asking the question: Is it possible the wife hired somebody? Why wouldn't the spouse be looked at? That's okay to say. The wife did it. I know she hired somebody, and now we just have to prove it. That could be something different. It's a different line. So I don't know what this content provider, I think I know who you're talking about. I don't know if he specifically said Michael did it, the cousin, or whether he just flat out said it. Okay.
And that's why he got banned. Yeah,
he got banned. He started another account though. He's got a second account, and he was right back up laughing at TikTok about how I'm back, bitches. So he's still here. He's just got a different account.
Yeah, and he needs to ask himself, is it possible that the family got involved in that thing? Yeah. We don't think of it that way, but these families, they're paying very close attention to social media.
Yeah.
Very close attention. And they see stuff like that, especially with this kid's family. Listen, $50K for a lawyer for a defamation suit, or $25 or whatever it's cost. For this family, drop in the bucket.
Right.
They've got the money they don't care if you've got nothing. They will drain you for the pleasure of it.
Yeah. I want to address, and Tony had a question, and it's funny because I'm going to counter myself at this point, because I've been maintaining it's not mental illness. That's my view. But the question about how does mental illness make sense coming to 26, to be fair, there are a lot of psychosis that trigger in your 20s. So I mean, I don't believe. I want to make it clear for a millionth time. I do not buy that he had a psychosis or a mental breakdown. But it is common in 20-something-year-olds. Schizophrenia presents often in their 20s. Several things present in their 20s. So it would be in keeping with the age.
Yeah, and if he suddenly went crazy, how does it make sense? Here's the thing: it wasn't. If it happened, it wasn't sudden. The brain fog, the visual snow, the IBS, the disrupted sleep. These are all signs of potential, like signs that potentially someone's struggling with mental illness. So it wouldn't be all of a sudden. There would have been a buildup.
Well, like I said, it's difficult for me because like I have to be fair with the facts, and I was just like, well, I'm not subscribing to the mental illness thing, but in the 20s, that is a time when that tends to happen to certain types of illness.
Yeah, they are signs of a lot of things, but independently, but collectively, more often than not, one of the things that they're sort of collectively associated with is mental illness. Yeah. It is what it is. So if it was, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to answer. Renee was asking if either one of us are professionally trained or educated in the law.
In the law? No. No.
And I will say, I just watch a lot of true crime and I study a lot of true crime, and so I've educated myself in the law system, and I'm smart enough to start to figure out some of how that works. That's the only reason why I can talk educated on that thing. I've asked sometimes for unbiased lawyers to join the show if they can. Sometimes to settle some of the questions that we have. As far as psych stuff, I was a psych major. I took my classes all the way through my master's level, but then I found out that I got 2 C's in school, and because I would never go to grad school, that I was wasting my degree going into psychology, and so I dropped out of school and never finished. I took all the courses through master's level for psychology, and then I dropped out because they're like, you're going to be a social worker the rest of your life, and you're going to hate yourself. So change your career field. Like, all
right. Hold on. Do you know what's going on with your microphone?
I want to get somebody else to confirm it's that they're hearing it too. Am I sounding underwater too? We'll see what Lady says when she comes on.
Oh, hey.
Hey.
I can't believe you're both on. I came on here to send you a DM to see if you had seen the footage that was dropped yesterday.
About the coming out of the bus station?
Yeah. Is that what you guys were talking about?
Character analysis.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier.
Do I sound like I'm underwater for you? Does my microphone sound bad?
No, does mine?
No. But character analysis was saying that I sound like I'm a little muffled or underwater, so I was just curious if anybody else is hearing that from their side as well. It sounds like Just Curious hears me fine too. I don't know what's going on. Hopefully it's just you, and not everybody's been hearing muffled stuff all night. That would suck. I sound far away. Okay, well, that's why I'm kind of shouting a little bit. I guess I am kind of far away, so maybe I need to fix that. But yeah, I haven't seen the footage. It's new footage that was released. You guys, both brought it up. Is that Bryan? Who aired it? Like, what news station aired it?
It was actually aired in the immediate days after his arrest, and then it sort of slipped away, and somebody recirculated it. But I was trying to find it weeks ago because I remembered seeing it, and then I thought I made it up because I couldn't find it again.
Gotcha.
But he's wearing a medical mask. He's got the walk. It looks like the walk. It's the medical mask and the outfit from the cab with what appears to be the hunchback of another backpack under the puffer coat.
And the same shoes.
Same shoes as the shooter, with the very cushy bottom, those Adidas. And unfortunately, are we allowed to say, are we still using Lulu now?
I say what I want to say. I've been pretty open, but
okay. It's the Luigi walk, in my opinion. Unfortunately, I do think he's got a very distinct walk. His posture's immaculate. The shooter's posture was immaculate. It's very distinct with a slight tilt to one of his feet. He's had it since he was a kid. I've been like zooming in on every single video of his walk, and I just, oof, that footage just kind of hit me today. I was like, okay, ouch.
Yeah.
So I'll ask
They
you.
were, they were very sad. They were very sad in the Free Luigi. So
Right. So where do you stand? So now if you're becoming convinced he's the guy, how do you feel about that?
I like you was convinced he was a guy this whole time. I was never under the impression that he was not involved. I'm now realizing there's almost no space for the other guy.
So where does that leave?
Where is the other player? Where's this other player? And
Yeah.
because he is matching. For me, the eyebrows have always matched. I never was buying into the eyebrows not matching. There's different lighting angles, warm versus fluorescent lights, blah, blah, blah. I always thought he was that guy in most of those photos. And perhaps maybe the Starbucks one wasn't him, but even that, for me, I didn't care about the eyebrows in that photo. It was his hands. He's got, like everything on him, absolutely stunning hands. His hands are gorgeous. These delicate hands. And if you look at footage of him, even like when he was a kid, his hands are constantly moving and he's always holds them up. And they're just distinct, long fingers. And in Starbucks, he's holding something in his hand and it looks like his hands. It's very gorgeous fingers that are, I think, pretty rare looking. So I don't know. I'm just bummed out. I think it's him. I think it's clearly him in everything.
yeah.
Explain to me your emotions. Why are you bummed out if it's him?
I don't know, because I think it's sad. I think I'm hitting sad. I just think we all think he's an adorable person by all accounts. Had so much to give to the world, and this is going to really suck.
Yeah, this is why. Yeah, I know. I was there for like 3 days, like maybe a week, and then when I started the questions about the timeline, could he get downtown? What about the subway person? I just dug until I could get an answer.
Yeah.
And once my questions were answered, I was like, God damn it! You know, I always listen. I am. Like, I'm friends with people who have like legitimately identified unalivers on the internet. Like,
Yeah.
and if they say it's him, as much as I might be like I not only do I believe them, but I ask them, and they're willing to teach me why do you believe that? Just show me, and they do. They take the time. And they walked me through everything. They walked me through the backpack. They walked me through the lighting on the camera and the camera lens. And it's him. It's him. Sorry. And I get why you're devastated now. That's why for me, I'm like, rip the Band-Aid off as quickly as possible. People are going to be devastated as the evidence comes out.
I was never like there's so many people that are different levels of Delulu for Lulu. I was never one of the he didn't do it. I or had no involvement. I just thought there was another player. I thought he was going to, and I still sort of am on that as well. I do sort of keep going back to that just because this is so jarring. And as much as the evidence is appearing to line up where we were hoping some of these weren't him, they appear to be him. The other parts of it as to how did he get to that day still don't totally get me out of the other possibilities of him possibly being hired or being asked to do, you know what I mean? I'm still sort of holding on to a little bit of that, and that may sound nuts, but I just don't get how he got there over such a long period of time as it appears it took him to get there. This was not quickly done.
It wasn't quickly done. It was obviously whoever. Listen, I'll play this game. Whoever wrote the Notebook. This has already always
Yeah.
been. This has been in the works for a couple months, a few months, right?
Yeah.
But what gets me is it's as if the plan stopped the minute it was done, or the minute
Yeah.
he like he
Yeah.
I I think he went all the way up to the bus station, went inside to try and hopefully get lost a little bit, then ditched and went to the subway
Yeah.
and got all the way down to Penn Station. And he was right because they were sure he left by bus. They
Right.
were sure of it.
Right. But that
As
doesn't
far as we
align
know.
with the rest of who he is and his detailed planning to have not come up with a plan for after he left. And it's even more frustrating that he had internet access. So it's like, baby boy, you knew we had your eyebrows within hours, honey. We had your eyebrows. They
Yeah.
couldn't be more distinct, sweetie. You didn't go shave those bitches off. You didn't
Right.
dye them blonde. He should
Right.
have made them look like Drew Barrymore circa 1993 and blonde. Made
See,
them
we're
blonde.
the only ones who are going to get that joke. We're the only ones who are going to get that joke.
Yeah, just the thin eyebrows and blonde his hair. Shave your hair, honey. You're Italian. It's going to grow back in 2 seconds. Give himself a blonde buzz cut.
Yep.
Just the fact. I mean, there's just all of these things that would have been. If I was thrown into that scenario, literally, if someone knocked on my door and said, you have to go on the run right now, and I had to grab a backpack, I could have come up with better ways of staying hidden, getting away with it. And all of a sudden, if my face was everywhere, I would have immediately started changing it. The fact that the
Right.
damn eyebrows were sitting in Pennsylvania blew my mind instantly. I was like, please, because he was clearly Googling himself. That report that he was in Best Buy before he went to McDonald's blew my mind too. He
We
went
don't
into,
really know that. We don't know that happened, though. We really don't know that happened. That's one of those stories.
is that
Unless
a
I see
story?
proof.
Because I looked it up on the map and that was a 2.7 mile walk, which he's on foot and on the run. So he's got nothing else to do but walk. But I was like, that's not right next door to McDonald's. Why is everyone saying it's right next door? That was 2.7 miles.
Yeah.
And kind of stupid unless he went into Best Buy to purchase the laptop. But if you're already
Maybe.
buying a laptop, why the hell are you? Did you really walk over to a display laptop and Google CEO shooter? Like, what were
Like
you doing?
I can you imagine like wearing the mask that is probably out like all the like what? Bro, just take the pew pew out and like wave it around if you're going to be that obvious. I do want to address Renee's comment. I don't know how anyone can know definitively until we get DNA and ballistic testing back. Neither of those things are going to matter. I'm sorry, they're not. They're not going to matter.
How do you
That
think-
notebook,
how do you think they're not going to matter.
the notebook, and I think they probably have him on camera. I think they probably have
Yeah,
some
I would-
CCTV.
I would have to disagree, but I don't think we've ever had a case where we can do the testing on a 3D printed gun. This is going to be an unprecedented thing in the first place, and I think that's going to be a major problem in it. And I don't think the manifesto, which many people have said, we're not sure that's even. And first of all, the word manifesto was just used to prejudice people against him. I'm sure he did not call it a manifesto. That's what we call things to make people look like they're guilty. Well, he had a manifesto, and it's like. I really don't think they're going to hang him because, well, you wrote a letter saying you did it, so you did it.
No. Dude,
Yeah.
he had an entire notebook
Yeah, but
full of the plan of how to do it and who he was targeting.
yeah.
Yes.
I know, but you don't understand. Like when I was researching James Holmes, he had a notebook too where he drew out how he was going to do it. I just don't believe you do that. Like, and I don't believe the mental list. Like, you don't carry around a notebook. Like, if I'm going to commit a crime, I'm not making a bulleted list. Shoot the guy on day one. Go to this place on day. Like, what idiot would write that down? And you're right to your argument.
Somebody mentally ill.
Illness,
somebody mentally ill.
Nobody's going to do that.
Right.
Nobody's going to write it down and put it in a notebook. Here's how I'm going to kill somebody, and here's how I'm going to get away with it in a notebook. Like, nobody would do that.
And a very nerdy engineer student who literally wrote lists and kept he wrote apparently spiral notebooks his entire life for everything in detail. That was just who he was. So I get doing it. I'm just like, why is it on you? Why does this? We didn't burn this down. There were train tracks right next to, like, you just got, like, burn them at the train tracks. Do something.
do anything. But like I said, I think his plan was to unalive himself. That's like, I think this kid was delusional.
I think
like this. He was delusional when he said, apparently I'm the only one. I'm the first to approach this with such brutality. Bro, you most certainly are not. We've had this done throughout history. You are not the first. This kid really believes he was the first.
You're putting me in a difficult situation because I'm giving you guys all of this space to talk about my theory completely wrong, and I want to be respectful.
Bro, no one's saying you can't talk. Feel free to talk.
I don't want to interrupt you, and I don't want to keep cutting you guys off. But it's difficult because I want to give you guys your space to say this, but then it becomes the whole thing about how he did it. He's just mentally ill. And again, I don't subscribe to the mental illness part, but I don't want to argue that all day long because it doesn't do any good for you to keep saying he's mentally ill and me say no, he's not. It's not going to do anybody any good. So I'm trying to figure out.
But the problem is, it does do us all good because we're all obsessed with it. We're all just speculating. Yeah. We're all doing it because we can't stop ourselves from doing it. Right. And you know what I mean? I just can't believe you guys were on here because I came on here to send you a DM. I was like, oh my God, they're live. I have to talk to somebody. I also don't think it's still the end all that it was him alone due to mental illness. I'm also still believing that he also could have just done this for someone, set up by somebody, all of that. Because it just is too good. Of all of the times in history that has also occurred, it's been with people just like Luigi that were used by the CIA or somebody else. I mean, it's not far-fetched. It sounds far-fetched because it's crazy, but it's been done throughout history.
Right. I mean, I hate to use it because of the conspiratory overtone, but the MK Ultra program is exactly the thing what the CIA was doing, investigating the possibility of drugging people and having them act that they want done against their will because you make them basically puppets to do what you want. Now, I'm not saying that's what happened in the Luigi case. What I'm saying is the government has certainly been involved in sketchy shit of trying to get other people to do their dirty work and then blame it on mental illness and all that. That's been an MO of
1,000%. 1,000%.
Can I?
And then got the person off. How many times have we watched hitmen from the mob get off?
Right.
Because why?
Yeah, they pay the police. That's where, like, the police are corrupt. Like, they pay off the police. But that's I want to something in the
they pay off the police, but they also plant people in the jurors. I mean,
yeah, they do all kinds of stuff.
Right.
Hang on. I want to address this. It's just stuff we read online that is circumstantial evidence. DNA is not circumstantial. That notebook is not circumstantial evidence. Like, again, I am begging people, you are being gaslit into believing something that is not true. That notebook is damning, right? Like, even if they found his DNA on a water bottle, right? They have to, in order for it to be, I mean, let's say he had water and he threw it in a trash barrel. That's circumstantial. But if they have him on video which they probably do because we already have him on video throwing the protein bar wrapper away, if they have him throwing that bottle into a trash can, right, that's a little different. Like, this notebook is not circumstantial. It's not. I'm sorry. And if you guys disagree with me, you can tell me, but
Well,
they, I mean,
I don't want to argue it to death, but I would argue we don't know that the notebook was written by him. The only way we know that it was written by him, if you want to go there, is that he didn't argue against the notebook when they said they had the notebook. But that's
Right.
it. He hasn't confessed to writing that notebook. Now, so, I mean, again, whether or not there was a notebook and whether or not it was written by him are all still stuff that hasn't come out. It's not like Luigi said, yeah, I wrote that notebook, and that would be a different story. But
Right.
hold on.
Right.
Renee,
And
hold on. Wait a minute. Because Renee's getting on my fucking nerves. You don't even know the correct definition of gaslight. I do. I'm certified in trauma recovery. I know what gaslighting is. And I get it. And it's this kind of response when you say he's guilty. But you know what, Renee? Because I've seen you in Jason Brooks' comments. You had no fucking problem with him blaming and implicating the cousin. None whatsoever. None. So it's funny how you get upset when someone says they believe that Luigi could be guilty, but you have no problem with people, innocent people, being implicated and blamed.
right.
So, sorry.
And
Go ahead,
honestly,
Lee.
anyone listening to Jason Brooks, a felon who stole 10 million from regular, everyday, middle-class Americans, destroyed their retirements and their savings. He did not steal from the elite. He stole and ruined lives. Dozens of people in 15 states. He is a con man and a liar. So anyone listening to him should not only be ashamed of themselves, but should go and seek help. If you're listening to this man who's latched himself onto a 24-year-old kid and making up lies about this kid and his death penalty case.
Let me do a slight adjustment. And this is not directed at you guys. It's a rhetorical thing. Let's take it down a notch because we're getting a little bit yelling at each other, shouting at each other, calling each other names. We're getting more. So let's take it down a woosah, meditative sloth behind me kind of thing. Just take it down a notch because I feel like we're getting a little bit spun. And I wanted to just, like I said, not directed at anybody specifically. Just like, let's take a deep breath and kind of keep this. Not that it hasn't gone uncivil, but let's keep it civil.
No, I just think people need to understand that presumption of innocence, that's for jurors. Like, jurors are obligated to be objective and presume innocence. That's for a court of law. You cannot tell people, human beings, you can't have an opinion on this. Yes, right. We can. And yes, we can communicate it. And I don't, trying to stifle that and the way that's trying to be stifled, I find that concerning in that it's the volatility of the people. When you say you think he's guilty, they're not civil. It's not a civil response. It's hostile. Right. And I find that concerning.
And the thing is, what everyone needs to understand is this sort of discussion is exactly what the jury is going to be discussing. And at that point, they're going to have all of the discovery, all of the evidence, all of the arguments in front of them. And whenever that takes place, 12 months, 15 months from now, and the discussion will still be the same as probably what we're having. People are going to want to say, no, he's not guilty at that table. And some are going to want, it's okay to have a discourse about it and have different viewpoints.
However, I agree. What I'm concerned about is TikTok's not super a fan, right, of talking like adults. So the fact that we have to use words like pew pew because we can't say.
Yes. Yeah. That wasn't directed at you, by the way. I'm directing it at people that listen to someone like Jason Brooks, who's just also going on rampages against everybody, including lawyers. And it's nuts. Um,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's an unfortunate thing that's come from the Luigi obsession.
Yeah,
When
that's the hard part.
most
Like all of us, like people are kind of losing their minds over the case, right? Because you start to dig in on your personal position, and then everybody starts. But yeah, believe me, I'm not a fan of Jason Brooks. I'm well aware of it. I had to end up blocking him because I couldn't handle it anymore. I was just like, I'm tired of listening to it. But that was just me. But anyways, the point being is that it's one of the things that we've forgotten how to do in this country is how to talk civilly and talk like adults and have difference of opinions and be okay with difference of opinions. Like, and that's what I like about like what we're doing is that you ladies come on here and you have a different opinion than mine, but we are polite to each other and we're civil to each other, and people can learn a lot from listening to two people provide very different opinions and treat each other civilly. And so that's what I feel like we don't do so good anymore in this country is like learn how the art of being able to agree to disagree at the end of the day, kind of thing. You know?
I also feel like a lot of
Yeah.
people are new to case talk.
Yeah.
Like that this is very much this is new territory for them. And in case talk, we talk about the case, we talk about the evidence, we talk about like anything we know. We talk about what's relevant to the case. And this is why like listen, the uprising against the healthcare industry, I'm sorry, it's been drowned out because it's just Lulu this and
Yes.
Lulu that
Yeah.
and my Lulu and Lulu didn't do this, and we've lost the plot, people.
Well,
We've
yeah,
lost the plot.
and to be fair, that's exactly where my partner in my Devil's Advocate's account wants to go. Is he wants to have the bigger discussion. What's wrong with healthcare in this system that this was even considered an option? What and instead of saying, "Oh, he's a nutbag, he needs to go away" for something like that, like why did this system get so bad that that was a reasonable expectation or that was something somebody thought would be reasonable? Like the system is broken. And that's what my partner wants to do is spend more time talking about the bigger issue. Forget Luigi. He was just a catalyst for the bigger discussion. Our system is broken. Our healthcare system is broken. Our judicial system is broken. Everything in this country is corrupt. So that's the bigger issue. But it's hard to talk about this again when everybody gets obsessed about the man and not about the issue of what's going on.
Right. Right. The man is overshadowing the bigger, more important issue of the corruption and the corporate greed.
Well,
Right?
I don't agree that he's overshadowing it. He brought it to us. We have, I mean, we're not even 2 months away from it. Has it been 2 months yet? I mean, this did just happen. It's under 2 months. This did just happen. Nobody else in the country, no politician, no one has brought that to the forefront other than Luigi. So the obsession is bringing it to the forefront. The fact that we are now even saying we're not doing enough when it's never talked about. When have you heard it talked about to this extent?
Two things I want to comment. Mr. Cobretti was right. Like Cobretti was following the money, and that's exactly what he was talking about, the bigger issue. So I want
Yes.
to acknowledge
Yeah.
that. But I also want to say, what I'm about to say hopefully won't get me kicked off, but I'm going to probably wrap up at the top of the hour anyway. So let's see if I can avoid getting kicked off by TikTok earlier. But here's what I'm going to say. One of the things that I have found asinine, and both my partner and I find asinine, is this idea that people are being shamed in America by media and talking heads about how we're to be disgusted, just to be treated like we're somehow morons or horrible people because we thought violence could solve something. Oh my God. This entire country is founded on violence. Everything about this country has been founded on violence. And the people who go to war in other countries and wage war against them to take their shit and then tell us, I can't believe that you think violence can solve anything. Like, are you kidding me? Like, how are the talking heads telling us that we should be ashamed of ourselves for considering that violence might actually fix something in the country? Like, again, it's an adult conversation. I am not advocating violence. I am not asking for a call to action. What I'm saying is, as adults, maybe we should have that dialogue. Maybe violence has fixed some things. Maybe Blue Cross changed their opinion about charging time for anesthesiologists and saying they're cut off because Luigi did this. And maybe all of a sudden Blue Cross was like, fuck that. We're not going to do that anymore. We changed our mind about capping anesthesiologists' costs. I don't know if everybody knows about that, but maybe that was a change.
Yeah.
Maybe that was a change that happened because of this.
Right.
Didn't UHC's stock drop by or value? What did it drop by? Like
At the time of the hack, it dropped $800 million. I think they also dropped a bunch of money after Brian Thompson too, but I can't remember how much they lost on that one. But it was in the news. It was in the news just recently. I did a video on it somewhere about how much money they lost.
But was it a loss, or was it a temporary stock price change that doesn't matter?
That's just it.
Right.
Yeah.
So they did not lose anything. Right. they were in the billions and billions of profits by the end of the year.
Still recorded record profits.
Correct.
Still recorded record profits, right.
But what this will do moving forward is people now, our eyes are open. People who are unaware that they purchased Change Healthcare before the crash and all of those moves that they made, and that the US government attempted to stop them so they wouldn't become a monopoly. And they're currently trying to acquire another acquisition that the government's trying to stop again so they won't become a monopoly. Everyone will now have their eyes open. Not the small few that were paying attention before. Everyone will be watching it. Whether or not people are going to start retaliating
and
protesting.
To your point, that's my point. I think maybe your point as well. To your point is, when we make it all about Luigi and how effing hot he is and how every woman in America wants to smash him, rather the big issue is what's wrong with our system, because he's opened up a dialogue. If he did it, he opened up a dialogue in America, and shame on us if we make this just about how hot he is and how we can't see the poor guy going to jail, and instead have the conversation that he would want us to have if that's what he wanted us to have.
Correct, which is exactly what he wanted us to have, and instead we're doing what, based on his tweets and his private emails and everything they talked about, we're doing everything that he would absolutely hate, right. Which is sitting at home obsessing over it, focusing on him. Although anyone else as a suspect would have been less of an interest. So he gave us the interest whether he did it or not.
Right. Which is why I feel like in some way, we as America owe him the obligation to have the dialogue he wanted us to start. And there's an argument to be made for that. If Luigi did this because he wanted to make change in society, rather than us focusing on how good looking he is, let's talk about the system and why he did this thing and what's broken with the system and try to fix it. Because ultimately, unless he has mental illness, that's what he wanted us to do, was to wake up. This was a wake-up call. Wake up, everybody, like something's wrong with your system. So again, he was either mentally ill and he had no idea that this was going to be a wake-up call, or he meant it as a wake-up call. But we should maybe have that big boy conversation about what's going on in this country and how bad it really is.
Yeah, and I've actually been just sort of surprised that there has been no sort of political movement, activism. Like, where is everybody sort of throwing money behind something like that? It's just sort of been quiet in that regard.
Here's what I think. I think that when this happened, not only did the shooter stand up against a corrupt industry, right? But there was this game aspect to it, right? With the monopoly money and the etchings on the bullets, and like it was a game, right? Like the game is afoot, as Sherlock Holmes would say. And we followed this story, and we were under this impression that he was this sort of Avenger-like figure who was coming to save us, in a sense.
And there's the argument. If he was playing a game, if indeed, and because I've postulated this as well, the Monopoly, the Pokemon, all these little red herrings. If he's playing a game, one thing a good chess player game knows is that you always stay a step ahead of your competition. So is Luigi off his rocker, or is he a step ahead? Does he already know where this is going, and he's already cut several steps ahead of law enforcement? Because I'll tell you one thing, not to completely disparage law enforcement, but they work by a playbook. And if you know their playbook, you can stay a step ahead of law enforcement. So is he that smart? Is he playing a game with the system and he's already several steps ahead of them, or is he just nuts?
But here's the thing. So we have this this manhunt, and then this kid is found in McDonald's eating a hash brown, incriminating evidence at his feet, and people like, wait a minute. This guy was supposed to be way smarter than that. This guy was supposed to be, this guy was Batman. This guy was, and then it just turns out he's just some privileged white kid. And I think people were really disappointed at how this ended. Right?
Like they were ended yet.
It hasn't ended. That's just it.
But how the manhunt ended. That's what I mean.
What I'm saying is he may. This is the argument.
The manhunt hasn't ended. They're still investigating. Right. They've been clear about that.
To be picked up because he knew he was several steps ahead. So it's not a mistake. Just like I've been saying, there's a possibility. It's not a mistake he didn't wear gloves. It's not a mistake that he put down a water bottle. Yeah. It's not a mistake that these were all purposely planted because it's a game. Him getting picked up and arrested wasn't a mistake. It was done on purpose.
Yeah, and I'm still sort of on that realm as well. That was all. It's a possibility. That was all a part of it. They are still investigating. That hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped, and I find the whole arrest odd in the first place. I've always found it odd. I don't believe that he was called by an employee. I don't think there was a 911 that recognized him. I'm not buying any of that.
No, I don't buy.
I'm not buying any of that.
I think he went into but Altoona, Pennsylvania, a very, very conservative area. Here's the thing: what are they seeing on the news? They're seeing somebody in a mask on the news, and somebody walks through the door wearing a mask in a place where nobody's wearing masks. That's what got him caught.
This is the catch-22 between you and I, character analysis, because you're right. Only a person who's not mentally there is going to make that mistake. That doesn't make any sense. And to your argument, that's proof of mental illness. To my argument, that wasn't a mistake. There's no way in 5 days of running from the authorities, he's going to keep the backpack on him with the gun on him and the notebook on him and still be wearing the mask and still be... There's no way in 5 days that he still has that on him. That was planned.
It's just so bizarre because even if he had a mental break, the guy has an Ivy League education on AI. And he would have known facial recognition was going to be used on him. He was smart enough to set everything up. So even if it was mania, he still has the Ivy League education working his brain because he set it up nearly flawlessly up until his departure or to the departure.
But he didn't, though. He didn't. He wasn't flawless about this at all.
One
That's
moment.
the thing.
One moment, ladies. I wanted to bring Mr. Kohberger on because he wanted to say, he said, I want to speak, but I don't have the option to invite him. I also kind of wanted to end in about 7 minutes. So I certainly want to get him on for a second to say his piece because he's been sitting here wanting to talk for a while. But what's weird is I don't have the option to invite him. Like, it doesn't give me the option to invite him. So what the hell is that about?
Does he not have enough people?
He does. I've been on a live with him before. So I'm trying to figure out why I can't invite him. Can you put in a request, Mr. Kohberger, to have me try to get, because I can't. You don't have invite as an option next to your name for me, and I can't click on you and invite you. So I'm not sure why. I think you did earlier. We were following each other, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah,
like I said, I've done a live with him before. So I just wanted to give him a shot before we wrap up tonight to say something because I know,
Trish said, I work on a plane and there are more people that wear masks than not. But a plane, like when you're in an enclosed space like that, that's not Altoona, Pennsylvania. And also it was like early in the morning, and the clientele was probably skewed older, not a lot of people whipping out their cell phones.
I think he did do we know if that Altoona has sort of the kiosks, the McDonald's kiosks?
With the facial recognition?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because that's what I really think that they were already on to him. Why were they speaking to his mother 2 days before the arrest? Why were they doing that? I will never get over that. I will never get over the San Francisco missing persons and the connection to mom 2 days before the arrest, and then just boom, some old dude in Altoona. It doesn't. It just doesn't make sense.
Okay.
I think it was just timing. I think it was just timing.
Hold on, ladies. Mr. Cobretti sent me a request to join, and I accepted, and then it went away. So I want to give him some time to speak. So let's let him come up real quick. I'm going to give him. It looks like he sent in another request. I'm going to try to give him a moment.
Yeah.
Let me get him up here.
Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
Good.
Am I in?
Yes.
Okay. Let me see if I can get my camera on. How are you guys?
Good. We're having a rousing conversation with lots of shouting and joy and excitement and.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I've been enjoying listening to the conversation.
Yeah, it's good to have you back.
No, it's great to be here. I've been catching a couple of your lives, just listening in over the last couple of weeks. So it's nice to be back here
Awesome.
and listening on this conversation, which has been great too. So, and I know you're about to wrap up, so I'm happy to catch the end. And thanks for inviting me in.
Yeah, I want to make sure if you had a point that you want to make to go ahead. I mean, I'm not going to hard wrap in 4 minutes. So if you've got a point, that you want to squeeze in or whatever, I'm willing to go a little longer. Usually I only do an hour, and here we are at 2 hours, and I'm like, there's no end to this conversation. So
what I wanted to say was a couple of things. First of all, I just was appreciating that you guys were having this conversation. Since the ban, it's really been interesting. I haven't been able to see any content on here. All of my videos, my whole series got flagged and violated. They're all off the FYP. And honestly, I've been kind of afraid to even make a video because the last one didn't get a lot of traction, number one. And then number two, I don't want to get banned. And so I've had a lot of fear about putting any content out because I don't want to lose my account.
I'm with you on that.
They've made it so that I'm afraid to do what a lot of people I know that follow me want me to do. And so it's interesting. I put out a couple of videos on the fires. I got some stuff going on in my life. I put out a couple of videos. And so, I've been doing a lot of research. And at this point, I'm like, where is the content? And I know there's a couple of creators that were doing what I was doing a little bit, but they didn't dive in to United Healthcare the way that I did. And I liked what you guys were saying. It was really interesting to me. So that's what I wanted to.
No, and I love the fact that of all the creators that I was following, you were really big into following the money, because I do believe that that we can't overlook the possibility of the money trail being the major reason for this. I will say a couple things, and I'll try to be relatively brief on it, which is that the whole, and last time I did this, somebody got pissed off about how I talked about it for 20 minutes, but because they use shadow banning techniques and things to suppress you, you never know, because there's no transparency, whether you're just not resonating with people and nobody gives a shit about what you have to say because you're just not on point, or whether you're being suppressed because they don't want your point getting out there. And you don't know. So there's that part where you feel like, am I being arrogant to say I must be being suppressed? Or is it maybe just nobody gives a rip about the topic? You don't know, because there's no transparency in this system.
You can tell if your content is good and it's not getting out there, then you're being suppressed.
But who's to say whether your content's good or not? That's the thing. You don't know that if your content's good or
well,
if it's
you can tell if your content is bad by, I've seen people send me videos and they'll say I'm being suppressed, and then their lighting is bad, they're pausing and they're doing like this with the camera, and I'm like, you're not being suppressed, your content's bad. So you there's a difference, but when your videos are, when the videos that I put out that on they're all off the FYP at 100,000 views. So there's that, and then there's I'll put something out and it goes skyrockets And
Yes.
then immediately they say it's unoriginal or it's misinformation. That's suppression.
Yeah, yeah. I've noticed those trends too. And I want to say one more thing about this before we kind of say our goodbyes or wrap up a little bit tonight. And that is that I record these lives and I do post them on YouTube, on Devil's Advocates channel on YouTube. My hope is that if we want to have a more adult conversation where we don't have to, again, couch things with pew pew and all these other things and unalive instead of murder and all these things, if we want to be able to talk like adults, maybe we can move some night to a platform where we feel like we can have a little bit more open and frank discussion. In the meantime, though, I'm going to continue to do lives on TikTok until they kick me off. And I've been fortunate. I don't have an official strike on my account, so I think you get 3 before you're kicked off, unless you really, really went all in and got kicked off on your first one. But so I'm resting on the hope that I'm going to continue to ride the line until I get my first strike. But at the first strike I get, where I've got an official first strike, I'm going to be looking for an exit.
I've been banned without a strike, so it happens.
All right, that sucks. So I want to say to everybody who's listening, I'm going to kind of wrap up, but I want to give you guys a chance to say a parting thought, all 3 of my guests who are on the microphone. First of all, thank you everyone who came on tonight and gave us likes and gave us looks. We got some really good coverage tonight. I thought it was very spirited at times, very good conversation, excellent differences of opinions. I can't wait to post this on YouTube for people to get a longer look. I know that there's people who on their commute will listen to the lives back again and love that format when they can miss it. So thank you guys so much for providing a great live for me. If you guys have a parting thought, go ahead and give us your parting thoughts and then we'll wrap up here.
I had fun. Thank you so much for letting me up.
Yeah, thank you as well for coming on. You're always welcome. It's even though we have this like thing going on between I think it's great for the debate. I think it's good long term.
Do you want to go?
Oh, no, go ahead. I thought you were coming on to say something. I was all excited to hear it.
Yes, I thought you had a big point.
What I really wanted to say was what you were referring to. I guess if there's a minute, I'll say it. You were talking about, the whole thing about, Luigi and, my whole thing is I'm still tied to the fact that there's 2 things. Either he did it and there's just this, I still can't come up with why that is. There's no tie for me in any research that I've done as to why he did it, other than the fact that his family is somehow tied to Nancy Pelosi and blah, 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 and all of that. You've seen my videos. Other than that, there's no reason for this kid to have done this thing, and he did it. Yeah. Or somebody else did this, and this is all just noise to hide the fact that these people wanted Bryan Thompson dead. And this whole discussion and all this thing about healthcare and blah, 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 and the noise and all this internet loudness and everything is somebody is laughing. And they're laughing about all of this distraction and bullshit because of the fact that they have gotten the job done and gotten this guy out of the way. That's my...
Yeah, and I appreciate that sentiment because I am certainly entertaining the possibility, as I've said for a while, that this could have been a professional hit by the industry to keep him from talking to the Department of Justice, and that is certainly on my mind and will continue to be so. So like you're saying, there could be somebody very happy that all the focus is on the wrong shit. And not
that's what I've been saying since the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. And
And that doesn't mean that there isn't problems with healthcare. That doesn't mean it's a broken. That's all true. But I'm just saying that's a happy accident as a result of somebody way up there that didn't want this guy talking.
Okay, so what you just said is why I believe if this was someone along with Luigi who pulled this off, is why I believe he would have participated in it. If you want to talk about or think about motive, is what you just said. It got a conversation rolling. He was unemployed for a year. He was feeling unconnected to people. He was searching for himself. He was searching for people that he could be on the same wavelength to. He was reaching out to authors for help. He was traveling. And I feel like he was coming up short. And I think that it was the perfect moment for someone to have snuck in there and convinced him to be a
Radicalized
part,
him.
correct, and be a part of this. And for him, what he's getting is what's happening.
Yeah.
St. Luigi has brought this discussion about this shitty system. And it's up to us to continue the discussion and blah, blah, blah. But for him, that would have been what his goal would have been in it.
Well,
I agree. I think it would go back to money. And for me, if it's not the CIA, it's the shareholders that Bryan Thompson was going to meet that morning. How the hell did Luigi plan the exact moment to go across that sidewalk? How did he know there were no frontal cameras facing him under that awning? How did he know Bryan Thompson was not going to walk into that door? He didn't shoot him before Bryan Thompson passed in front of that door. He could have, how did Luigi know he wasn't going to walk in there?
Careful, you're asking too many questions. It's going to lead us back into a discussion, right?
Oh, yeah. And also,
Yeah, I
the
came
footage
in late.
of him
Because
on
we
the
could go
phone.
on here now, because now I have a lot to say. But yeah, all right, okay.
But
Yeah,
there you go.
Let me just wrap up, because again, I mean, you're firing a lot of rapid questions that do need answers. But I want to say, first of all, I want to wrap up here. I think this has been an amazing live. You guys have all enriched this live so much tonight, and I super appreciate you guys as guests. You're always welcome on my show, and I want to cut it off here because we could go all night long with this. You guys all had some good points on the way out, and again, I want to thank you so much for helping make this a good experience. I'm excited about publishing this live, and I want to say goodnight to everybody that's in here. And if I missed anybody in your comments, I'm so sorry. It was such a great conversation that I just wasn't paying attention to all this stuff. So on that end, I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye.
Good night.
And thanks everyone for coming and participating.
Check out my series if you haven't seen it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.